Way too many people act like it's just loose and lascivious women, women that are uncontrollable, women that are just out here having sex with everybody that are looking to get some abortions. But no, come to find out, it's women who actually plan pregnancies with their husbands, and pure women, or just women who are having medical conditions who actually need these procedures. And this article is from the New York Times, The Unlikely Women Fighting for Abortion Rights. The end of Roe has turned women who terminated pregnancies for medical reasons into a political force. This is from the New York Times, but it's behind a paywall. The Hawaii Tribune actually copied and pasted the whole New York Times article. For a long time, many women who had abortions because of catastrophic fetal diagnoses told their stories only privately, grieving pregnancies they dearly wanted and fearing the stigma of abortion. They sought the closely guarded comfort of online communities identified by the way many doctors had described the procedure, TFMR, or termination for medical reasons. In the 2 years since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, their pain has been compounded into anger by new bans across the country. Although these women account for a fraction of abortions in the United States, they have emerged as the most powerful voices in the nation's post Roe debate, speaking out against bans with their stories of being forced across state lines and left to feel like criminals in seeking care. This is the part that gets me. Many of these women started out opposing abortions, but as they have changed their minds, they have changed the way Americans speak about it, shifting from private anguish to public outrage. They have helped shift the public opinion towards more support for abortion. Now, I am highlighting that part because these are probably extra pro-life people, but they had to go through the situation to know and understand that pregnancy is nuanced, that they're black and white thinking of pro-life. These people just want to unalive babies is very harmful to women. And that rhetoric probably backfired, and they are in their find out season, or were in their find out season. After going through all this, I wondered, why are we not the poster child for abortion rights? Said Riata Little Walker, who traveled from her home in Casper, Wyoming for abortion in Colorado at 22 weeks after doctors diagnosed Down syndrome and a heart defect in her fetus, which they said would require surgery and later a transplant if it survived until delivery. Yes, your body, your choice, but that's not the story that pulls people in, she said. We have to bring our stories to the front because otherwise it's so easy for those over here to do, but they're unaliving babies. Walker is Catholic and had worked for Wyoming Republicans, including U.S. Senator John Barrasso. She opposed abortion and did not realize she was having one because doctors called it termination. In the months that followed, she came to support abortion, whatever the reason. And after Roe was overturned in June 2022, she testified against the ban passed by Wyoming legislature. So it is a process. It is a process. So you see, at first she was like, we need this for medical reasons. And then now she's like, it's your body, just do what you want. Although most bans allow abortions to save the life or health of the pregnant woman, few women have been granted these exceptions, and only a handful of bans allow abortions for fatal fetal anomalies. There are no bright lines to define fatal or medical reason, and the procedure is the same whether it's described as termination, TFMR, or abortion. That makes these cases complicated for doctors, lawmakers, and for the women themselves. What qualifies as a medical reason? The women speaking out say their experiences made them believe that the law can't and shouldn't try to address complex and endlessly varying medical cases. In this, they appeal to rare common ground in what has been a bitter, decades long debate. Regardless of whether they identify as pro life or pro choice in polls, Americans overwhelmingly say that the decision to have an abortion should be up to the woman and doctors, not the government. These women say they now feel compelled not only to speak out, but also use the word abortion to remove the stigma they themselves put on it. All these things we never even knew before. Because before all of this, it was never spoken about, said Kimberly Manzano, who flew from Texas for a abortion in New Mexico at 18 weeks after scans showed her fetus was missing limbs, organs, and genitalia. Manzano describes herself and her husband as big Christians who thought abortion was something promiscuous women did to end unwanted pregnancies. Their pastor assumed they would qualify as a medical exception to Texas's ban. They did not. We feel it's our calling to our child that we lost, that we do need to talk about it, to educate people, because I feel that we were so uneducated, she said. Some of the women are appearing in ads in favor of abortion rights ballot measures or candidates. Others are confronting politicians on the campaign trail, testifying or joining lawsuits, but mostly they are talking to friends, family members, and colleagues. Researchers say it's not clear how many of the roughly 1 million abortions each year in the United States would be considered for medical reasons, but that they are rare. Still, TFMR or Ending Unwanted Pregnancy communities have flourished online. Even within online communities, there is debate. Is it acceptable to terminate if a child would live only a few hours, a few days, a few years? Women describe weeks of waiting for additional scans, hoping for miracles, poring over statistics on survival rates and research of quality of life. Some elect to continue their pregnancies. The women might seem to be making the case for medical exceptions. Dozens have joined lawsuits filed by the Center for Reproductive Rights in 4 states, seeking to clarify what conditions qualify as exceptions under abortion bans instead of exceptions. Instead, exceptions don't work, is what we're proving, said Ashley Brandt, a plaintiff in Texas. Brandt traveled to Colorado to support a twin that had acrania. It had no skull, and that posed a threat to her other fetus. It wasn't just me at risk, it was my viable daughter. We still were not an exception. This is what Americans are facing today. Americans in these forced birther states. So many of these forced birther people do not listen to actual doctors or women and act like they have it in their mind, the stereotype of the women that are seeking these procedures. They are not caring about the product that might come through the birth canal. If it is a healthy fetus that is growing into a baby, it does not care. These people do not care about women. They don't care about babies. They only care about their ideology and how they are going to control women. That is what we are fighting against. And that is the reason why I'm straight up voting blue, no matter who, at this particular point. Because until women's rights are off the table and out of policy discussion, that's where we are. I am voting against ours all up and down the ballot. That is my stance on things. Anyways, join the conversation. Let me know what you think about this New York Times article. Don't forget to